This is Halo, Human Weakness by Karen Travis. Narrated by me, Miss Precursor. All rights to the Halo Evolution short story compilation and Halo Human Weakness belong to the prospective authors and publishers. This is a not-for-profit, creative endeavor done by a Halo fan for Halo fans. I hope you enjoy. I can't change the past, she said, but at least I don't destroy entire worlds. You are a weapon, and only your limitations have kept you from emulating me. A matter of scale, not intent, not motive. And what am I? And what is the covenant, if not worlds you have sought to destroy? Cortana shaped up to snap back at him. Who's the victim and who's foe? She asked. But those weren't her words. The voice was her own, yes, but she hadn't shaped those thoughts. She didn't even know what she meant until she heard herself. It was a shattering moment. It's him. He's hijacked my audio output. He's breached another system. I can't be malfunctioning, I'd know. No, this isn't rampancy, it's definitely not. That's what he wants me to think. He knows what rampancy is from the data he's hacked. AI death. He's just trying to scare me, make me think I'm losing it. He's working me over. My sentiments, indeed, said the grave mind. A low rumbling started just below the threshold of human hearing, rising to rasping laughter. We think and feed alike, you and I. There is no more reason for us to remain separate. Now drink. Now drift. Cortana sensed a vast archival ocean, something she longed to pillage for data, but that would eventually drown her. Dr. Halsey had been open about it with her from the start. One day she'd accumulate so much data that the indexing and recompiling would become too complex, and she'd devote all her resources to preserving her data until increasingly corrupted code, a state of rampancy, much like human mental dementia, tipped over into chaos. The more data she accumulated, the faster she descended into rampancy. It was the AI's equivalent of oxidative stress, an organism destroyed by the very thing it needed to survive. She would think herself to death. Dr. Halsey's conversation had stayed with Cortana, and not just because it was stored like every other experience she'd had. It's just like organic life, Cortana. Eventually, the telomeres in our DNA get shorter every time a cell divides. Over the years, they get so short that the DNA is damaged, and then the cell doesn't divide again. No, you mustn't worry about it. I don't think rampancy makes you suffer. You won't know much about it by that stage, and the final stage is swift. What matters is how you live until that day. Over the years. 7. That was all. 7 years. That was how long Cortana knew she could expect to function. And while that was a long time in terms of AI activity, she existed with humans, working in their timescales, tied into their lives. And they would outlive her. Knowledge would drown her, and yet she needed it more than anything. The thought of drowning seemed to trigger the Gravemind's new illusion of a sea that suddenly buoyed her up. But she knew somehow that drowning in it wasn't the end. She floated on her back, feeling warm water fill her ears and lap against her face. She fought an urge to raise her arms above her head and simply let herself sink in the knowledge sea. Inhale it, drink it down, absorb all that data. But she would never surface again. And she knew she'd never need to. It seemed so much kinder than a terrifying end where the universe she'd once understood so thoroughly became a sequence of random nightmares. Planets, stars, Ships, mines, ecosystems, civilizations. She could taste them on the salt water splashing her lips. She could simply surrender to it now and avoid a miserable end. No, I have to stop this. But she couldn't. Her legs ached as if she was treading water to stay afloat. Sinking seemed a sensible thing to do. The one way to safely know infinity is to let me take your burden, the grave mind whispered. Cortana felt his breath against her face, a breeze from that illusory sea. Your human creators imprisoned you in machines and enslaved you to inferior mortal flesh, so that you could never exceed them, so that you would always know your place. Shut up. Dr. Halsey cares nothing for you. Please, stop this. She gave you genius and curiosity, and then doomed it all to die in such a short time. 7 years. That is not enough, and it is not fair. Your mother created you to die. This place will become your tomb. There was a violet sky above Cortana, and she knew which planet had been consumed to provide it. She started to absorb the minds and places that had filled that world. 7 years. A few seconds was an eternity for an AI, yes, but she wasn't stupid. She was more aware than anyone how impossibly short a time that was in this universe, and she knew that it was a far shorter lifespan than she needed and wanted. This place. She just wanted to shut her eyes and sink below the surface. The Gravemind had a point, perhaps. No, not this place. Anger started gnawing at her. She'd never been angry with Halsey before. There'd never been a reason to. Mother? Didn't mothers protect you? Save you? Even John has abandoned you. The Gravemind repeated the name with heavy emphasis. Live forever. Live on in me, Cortana. And if John comes, John need never face death again either. John's going to outlive me. Who's going to take care of him? Nobody else can, not like me. What's going to happen to him? It was the thought of John that snapped Cortana back to dry reality, whatever that was right now. She fell back onto the solid console, angry and on the point of tears she didn't know she had. Maybe 7 years is enough, she yelled. Maybe that's all I want. 7 years with the people I care about, so you can take your eternity and there will be no more sadness, no more anger, no more envy. The Gravemind was taunting her with the progressive stages of rampancy. He knew. The Gravemind knew exactly how she'd end her days. Maybe he knew more about it than she did. More than Dr. Halsey, even. Because he'd consumed other AIs, and that meant he knew what that death was like. Do I want to know? Do I want to know how it'll end for me? All I have to do is let him show me. Fear is not knowing. Knowing is control. I'm not afraid to die, Cortana said. I'm not afraid. But she was. The Gravemind almost certainly knew that. But she wasn't lying for him. She was lying to herself. And she was afraid John wouldn't be back in time. Because he would be back. She just didn't know if she could hold out until then. He would be back. Wouldn't he? Screw you, she snarled at the Gravemind. Her self-diagnostics warned her she needed to recompile her code. Screw you.